Vice President, Legal Affairs, Landmark Legal Foundation, Mike O'Neill, back on the program. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Fawn, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Hey, thanks for coming back. I always like when you come
great.
here because we never disagree.
Let me do my best. I'll find something. I'm a go Knicks in the playoff series against Boston.
I don't care about basketball. I dated a couple pro basketball players. They ruined the sport for me. I can't stand it now. All right, Mike, you are talking with me today about district courts subverting the president. Now, the Democrats think this is the best idea ever, unless, of course, it was a Democrat president and a Republican-appointed judge would do it. They would crap themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And this is an orchestrated scheme. We knew this was going to. I started thinking about this probably in late November, December, that they were going to resort to lawfare, and we knew this was going to happen. And it's not surprising. What is surprising is, and it's unfortunate. Well, it shouldn't be really that surprising because you consider the number of judges that Joe Biden was able to elevate to the federal bench.
Yeah.
But what is surprising is the width and breadth of these injunctions. I don't think I saw the extent to which you were going to see. I don't know what the current count is, but it's a bunch. It's at least 15 or 16 nationwide injunctions issued by federal judges. And we've talked about this before, but it's important to bear repeating that the framers and the founders never envisioned a single lone district court judge sitting in a one jurisdiction in a country, in a state. For example, Virginia has two jurisdictions, the Eastern District of Virginia and the Western District of Virginia. The framers never envisioned an Eastern District of Virginia district court judge having the power to issue a nationwide injunction, an opinion or a decision that would have nationwide effects. And so I think this is something that needs to be curbed, it is in the process of being looked at. I think SCOTUS is going to hit it. Congress is hitting it. I think some of the appellate courts are also in the process of kind of reining in this unconstitutional, unfounded power.
Well, the constitutional experts on Facebook have decided that everything President Trump does should go to court, and they did it to him in his first, we'll call it reign because that's what they like to say. And now they're doing it again, but he's ready for him this time. That's why he had all of those executive orders written before he put his hand in the air and his hand on the Bible.
Right, and he understands how quickly he has to work and how aggressively. You can contrast his first administration 16 to 20 versus this one, and you saw now he knows it's almost a good thing. And I don't know if we've actually talked about this, but in conservative circles and the conservative world kind of has talked about it was almost a blessing that he had the 4-year pause because he was able to gather himself, surround himself with individuals who were going to move in and effectuate his agenda in an expedited manner. We always talk about, D.C. always likes to rush through things. We always talk about 100 days, the first two years you have to get something done. They understand this, and that's why they're really kind of adopting the mantra of the SpaceX and the Elon Musk almost, move fast and break things. So, of course, you are going to see some pushback from the courts. You are going to see some pushback. And I'm not going to come on the radio and talk to you about this and say every single thing he's going to do is going to get through the courts, because there's probably some things that are maybe outside his presidential power. But guess what? He's aggressively pursuing the agenda that he was elected to effectuate. And I think he's largely going to be successful. We did see a decision in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals just come down just this week. It was a decision that I get a little technical with you. This is regarding the termination of employees at the Voice of America. There was an executive order. A district court said, no, you couldn't do that. And the Trump administration sought a stay of that order pending appeal. And the D.C. Circuit did say, yes, you can. We are going to stay that injunction pending appeal. Why are we going to stay it? Well, this statutory tool all of these lawsuits are using is something called the Administrative Procedure Act. I'm getting a little legalistic with you, but it's important to talk about these details because it's important that everybody knows about how this stuff goes about. But if you look at all these lawsuits, the catch-all statute that a lot of these NGOs and these left-wing groups use to justify their actions is something called the Administrative Procedure Act. And they say, look, the agency action is contrary to the law, therefore I have a cause of action. Well, guess what? The D.C. Circuit said, look, we're going to rein in that utilization of that catch-all statute. You just can't throw out this statutory justification and have all your lawsuits get exactly what you want. So we're seeing a little bit of a pushback here. I would like to see pushback from SCOTUS and the Supreme Court leading from the front and actually reining in these judges. I think we might get some of that later this month when we have oral arguments and a decision in the birthright citizenship case. where they actually have an opportunity to rule specifically on these nationwide injunctions. That'll be an appreciated movement from the Supreme Court. I want to see that happen. I obviously want to see Congress take action, too, to pass some legislation to actually statutorily limit the jurisdiction of these courts.
I hope they do, too. And, all of the liberals who were screaming and yelling, all these people lost their jobs, it's horrible. They didn't give two flying farts about the 11,000 people who lost their jobs with the Keystone Pipeline with the swipe of a pen on his first day. They didn't care about those people, and it didn't get to go to judicial that. It didn't get to do any of that.
Right.
Those people just had to shut up and lose their homes. So, the line of demarcation we have in this country is staggering right now, where Trump can't even post a funny picture of himself in an AI-generated thing as the Pope.
I know, for heaven's
I mean, come on, it was funny. I'm a Catholic.
I can't believe that even got news. I mean, that shouldn't have even risen to the level of anything. I mean, I'm a Catholic, practicing Catholic, and of course I laughed at it because anybody with any kind of common sense just laughed at it.
It's funny. And, and I have like 15 friends who did the same thing, and it was funny when they did it too. Now, do I think it's mocking the papacy? No. It's having fun. I have one where I'm in a room full of German Shepherds. I have one where I'm in a room full of Siamese cats. Am I a hoarder of cats now? No, it was funny. That's it.
Right, and I think that, but you know what, Fawn? He almost has this capacity to aggravate and irritate his enemies to the extent to which they look like fools. The enemy looks like fools, right? I think that's one of his. Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of his superpowers. He could take the common sense, everybody, the sense of humor, and you can actually, and I think this is actually kind of a welcome thing you're seeing with this term. If you want to contrast this term with the presidential Trump's term before, is I think you're seeing some of the humor really kind of manifest and be on display here, and that's a good thing, right? He's got a great sense of humor. I think it's funny to see this stuff, and of course, he knows, the administration knows that the left and his enemies are just going to go, BS crazy
bananas
for everything, and they're just going to fall further and further down that rabbit hole. I mean, one other thing, since we're talking about the insanity and the idiocy of the left, did you happen to see those pictures of the New York Post, or the New York Magazine, I guess, of AOC and then what's his face? Soros's son and his wife, who used to be married to the New York mayor Anthony Weiner. It's just these pictures. You should see these pictures. They're just caricatures of the left. I mean, it's just exactly what you would picture. Okay, this is the new left, and then Al Sharpton has a picture. It's almost those Annie Leibovitz style kind of like, oh, look how brilliant we are pictures, and it's mocking in and of itself.
Yeah.
There's no self-awareness on the part of the left at all right now.
They don't have a clue what humor is. They can't laugh at anything.
Absolutely.
Nothing's funny, and they're like, this was in poor taste. I'm like, every comedian who is funny is in poor taste. They're not funny unless they're pushing the line.
Right, and I think it's a great. I love talking about this stuff because I think the comedians that are actually funny today are the truth tellers.
Yep.
They're the ones that see through the
Chappelle.
nonsense, and they're the ones that are actually willing to tell the truth about the state of America and the state of our country, and aren't worried about offending people. I would like to say this. I think we've turned a page almost nationally too. You saw it with the election of Donald Trump. Most people, common sense is starting to win out. Wokeism is on the decline. Common sense is reigning. Americanism is reigning. It's good to see this renewal of our American values and our American sense of humor.
Isn't it hilarious how the prices went sky high through the roof with Biden, who, by the way, had German Shepherds who bit people, and if Donald Trump had one, it would be because he trained it to kill people. That would be what it is. The breed is the breed, but it's. These tariffs, that everybody keeps talking about how the tariffs are ruining the country. It's causing the prices of everything to go sky. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the prices were sky high before Trump took office. And I have an entire 5-page report from the White House of people who are saying we have more work than we know what to do with. We can't even find enough employees to help us build these cars now because of the steel tariffs. We've got all this stuff going on, and business is booming, manufacturing's coming back, and it's all good things, but you won't hear a word about it except for a judge that wants a gang member back.
Yeah, politically speaking, I think that's a loser for the left. I keep getting into this. I don't understand how you can go and make an individual who is now, I think it's almost established that a wife abuser. You're talking about somebody who abuses his wife. You're talking about somebody who reportedly engaged in human trafficking, who is affiliated at the very probably most likely a member of an MS-13, and if not a member very closely affiliated with mid-level lieutenants in MS-13. Look at what we're talking about, and yet you make that your cause de celeb. You trudge down to El Salvador to have a tea or coffee or margarita or whatever have you drinks with the individual. But from my perspective is if your enemy is digging a hole, let them keep digging. And that's what they're doing. They just continue to dig.
Well,
and the rest of America is going to
I don't know how
going on
much
with
of my particular tax dollars were spent on these hoonyaks flying over there, but I would like a check, please. I want it back.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing is now we're seeing the common sense in the exposure that Doge is making of the administration. You're seeing that. Did you see this latest report on they did this report that you could spend money if you were a government employee. You could essentially write a check for whatever you wanted to and didn't have to produce receipts and didn't have to justify it. You almost were issued a blank check. And now you've seen that they've instituted codes and reporting and evidence of what you made your expenditure on, and the expenses of the government have decreased expeditiously, because you just saw that the government employees who were utilizing the taxpayers' money didn't have any extent to which they were using the money because it's not their money. So now that we know what's going on, there's been a lot of exposure of the rampant fraud, waste, and abuse that's been going on. I think these are all good things. I think our country is clearly moving in the right direction. I would, turning it back to the courts, I would like to see the judges begin to, at least the higher level, the circuit courts and the U.S. Supreme Court, begin to take steps to rein in these lower court judges who are issuing these injunctions. I think we will see it if these cases ever get to their merit stages. When a lot of these cases, you're going to see that the president does have a lot of authority vis-a-vis his executive actions on his administration. He can terminate employees. He can assert authority over these independent agencies. He has a lot of authority controlling the border, determining who gets deported and how they get deported. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Right now, we're kind of in the initial stages of these lawsuits. Yeah, and I mean, we'll pull a wait and see, but I really feel like Doge has been a great thing. I feel really sorry for Elon and how much he's lost. He'll be fine, by the way, but I feel sorry for what his reputation has gone through when the man is clearly very empathetic and philanthropic, as a matter of fact, and the way that everybody was like, buy a Tesla, now it's burn a Tesla, and they've turned into terroristic. They're the party of terrorists. That's what they're doing, and we've got Dip Dunk over here in Illinois, Pritzker, telling them to go out and scare Republicans and attack Republicans. Right. I'm paraphrasing, but of course, this is inciting violence, and they're all doing it, and it's happening. And yet, where are the judges saying that this is not okay? Where are they? Yeah, exactly. And I think there's different levels here. You're talking politically and legally, and then politically. If the front persons of your movement are J.B. Pritzker, who's a radical leftist, who's in part of the most corrupt state in the country, I mean, I could spend hours talking about the corruption in Chicago and what goes on in that state, and it's beyond the pale. So if J.B. Pritzker wants to lead the charge from a national perspective, or if AOC, or if Jasmine Crockett, or if Bernie Sanders, whomever these radical leftists want to lead the charge from their perspective, be the face of the Democrat Party. Now you see, I think the latest poll was Kamala Harris actually led. I think I read somewhere, Fawn, that they were justifying that Kamala Harris didn't just have enough time to establish herself to the American people. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, okay, that's great. Yeah. So, I mean, again, politically speaking, if your opponent or if your adversary wants to continue to dig themselves into a hole, let them keep digging. I think they're doing that. I don't think the judges really are doing them any favor from a political standpoint either. But we know that there's well-funded, we know there's well-funded organizations who are going to commit to this, so we're going to do our best to keep them on the run. Where do they go to read more, Mike? Landmarklegal.org. Thanks a lot, Fawn. You're welcome. Bye-bye.